Yes.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, but 1,000 words can paint just a lot of pictures. And we're here to help you do that with how lyrics paint pictures. Let's go ahead and stop. My name is Matthias.
My name is Jeff.
This is Diverses. We flipped it around here today. I'm really excited because we are going to be talking about how to paint pictures with your words / lyrics. A lot of people are, they're wondering, how can I really effectively paint a picture? And we're going to be looking at an example from a little thing I like to affectionately call pop culture. It's just short and popular. I just made it kind of a little bit smaller than what it typically is. A lot of people think I'm a genius. I don't say that about myself.
I'm a lot of people.
But like if you have not heard, if you've been living underneath a rock, or if you've been living on a rock like all of us are, then you have known two artists have went head to head in the hip hop culture. One, Aubrey Drake Graham, who is a hip hop rapper.
That's not his name. Is that man's name?
That's his name. You didn't know this. His name is Aubrey Drake Graham. So I have to teach Jeff these things because Jeff doesn't know. I have to like slide like records underneath.
No
like,
man is named.
I'm telling you, I'm not.
I believe it.
Okay, so Aubrey Drake Graham, he is a rapper, singer, actor, and those are. I think that's it.
And
he is, he huge artist in the hip hop culture, and he and one of the other, just incredible writer, rapper, actor, actually as well, Kendrick Lamar. Man, and it was exciting times. Were you able to kind of keep up with the drama, the back and forths?
I know that it's happening. I have very minimal interest in it, so I have not been keeping up with all
you didn't know Drake's first name was Aubrey.
I didn't. So I also didn't know Drake's first name.
There's that.
I don't think I'm the only person that doesn't know that, though.
I don't know that you're the only person that doesn't know that. So I'll give you that. I don't think that you're the only person that doesn't know that. I do think that the amount of people that know of Drake, of the people that know of Drake, most of them know that his first name is Aubrey. I would assume.
Okay.
Let us know. Am I saying something new to you? That Drake's first name is Aubrey? Am I saying? Did you think that Drake was just some a rapper name and that his real name had no connection to his name? Because Drake,
which does happen at times.
It does happen at times. It does happen at times. A lot of people know Puff Daddy. His first name is not Puff, and his last name not Daddy. So,
or Diddy,
or Love, or any of those things whatsoever. Beyonce's name is Beyonce. So there's that. She kind of kept that consistent. Kanye West's name right now isn't even Kanye West. It's just Ye. So a lot of stuff going on there, but we are here to focus in, lock in. We're almost ready to do that.
Joshua's here saying Aubrey's pretty known amongst the peoples. That's fair. Okay,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't follow Drake. I know nothing. I know he's Canadian. I know he.
Look at let's.
I know that because of when the Sixers play the Raptors, he's always repping the Raptors. It's like, all right.
Wait, so you was from Canada. You knew he's always repping the Raptors, and you were just like,
That's literally. That is literally all I need to know about.
Okay, let me ask. Did you think that did you think Drake was his first name, or did you just think Drake was just like an artist name?
I thought Drake was a part of his name, but I didn't know where. Could have been a middle name, could have been first name, could have been a last. I was never curious enough to dive into where it came from. I'll be honest.
Okay, well, fair enough. Well, listen, if you're out there, if you have some other Drake tidbits or Drake facts that you think that Jeff should know, you should put it in the comments.
Please.
let us know, because I just did you know Drake was an actor on Degrassi before he was a rapper?
I did not know, but Degrassi is another Canadian show, so that's not surprising. That's surprising that one of the 5 people in Canada was on the Canadian show Degrassi.
Oh man, that's actually hilarious, man. What up, Joshua? So wait, before we do the deep dive, because I feel like okay, I'm really excited to kind of talk about this topic. We're getting into kind of a wheelhouse that's like, you know, the pop culture hip hop thing currently ongoing is more my wheelhouse, but also I feel like the writing components are both of us, but primarily Jeff's wheelhouse. Jeff is like just
I don't usually do lyrics though. Lyrics is different. There's similarities, but there's differences. You know, there's similarities, but the differences with lyrics versus poems. But.
For sure. But listen. Listen. So okay, look, those people out there that don't know, Jeff's funny. Okay. So, and one of the things I was really excited for, Jeff was part of a roast, and I'm like, tell us about it.
Yeah, it was good. I opened up hard. It was a heavy New York joke. I won't give all the jokes because it won't make sense to you. But one joke was, so Greg's been in New York since this was the 6th year. So to open it up, it was, so Greg's been in New York for 6 years, which means
Greg is Jeff's twin brother.
Yes.
So just think about this.
He's getting married. Yes. There's another than me who's roaming around the Upper East Side in New York. So if you're there.
We don't know which one is the evil twin. We're hoping it's Greg, but
some of us.
Some of us might already know.
Yes, but Greg's been in New York for 6 years, which unfortunately means that 6 years ago was the 2nd worst day in New York history. That's the direction the roast went from there. That is the direction that we went.
Hold on. That, you know what? And I like the writing on that joke, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because we got kind of going with we're focusing on Greg. Greg is the subject, right? We have subject and maybe a secondary subject being New York, and so we have just Greg in New York, and I have no connectivity, and even. You don't even explicitly say the other side. It's just there's no need. There's no need.
It's all good
because the audience already made the connection. That was good. How did that joke go over? Did it go over good?
People are like, oh, it's that kind of roast. I mean, you gotta go right in.
You gotta go, and that's the thing about a roast, okay, guys. The thing about a roast is that a lot of people, they try to go soft. They try to like, no, that's not. You gotta roast.
Although I did also say, to make it more about Greg, I was also like, the reason that I think Greg picked me to be a host was so that there wouldn't be any mom jokes or dad jokes or jokes about his appearance, which means that the next 20 minutes are going to be really awkward because we're twins.
They are twins.
But I actually didn't make any jokes about her mom. Don't worry, Mom. It was okay.
Don't worry, Mom.
It was a joke. Anyways.
But he is ugly. And I know that because I cry in the mirror every day.
Let's
oh man. But let's dig in, man. Okay, so
I'm gonna upload the poem. I moved them. Hang on. Let us look at not the poem, the lyrics.
So, and we want to pull up the lyric for the other one as well, for the Heart Part 6.
It might be. Let me know your thoughts, but I think for right now it might be easier just to kind of tackle one at a time.
Let's tackle one at a time. Let's do it. Okay, so here's some context. Okay, here's some context for the series that we are going after. Again, if you're on this, you probably already saw the thumbnail, the Kendrick Drake right next to each other. Here's a little bit of background that you gotta kind of have to know.
Yes.
So they both have series that they are engaged in their own personal artist trajectory. And Kendrick's is kind of like the Heart series, and so the Heart About 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? And Drake's is like kind of the date, and so this is the reason why we're about to go into this is because Drake's is the date and location series, or the time and location series that is, and so I'll just kind of give you what the series is, kind of leading up to what we're examining here now. 4 p.m. in Calabasas, 5 a.m. in Toronto, 8 a.m. in Charlotte, 6 p.m. in New York, 7 a.m. on Bridle Path, 9 a.m. in Dallas. Here's a bonus is 7 a.m. in Germany. I guess like that's like, a bonus track. But yeah, so what's kind of here to note is the reason why we're kind of talking about the 2 tracks that we're about to talk about today, is for these 2 tracks, essentially these artists swapped their series is right. So and Kendrick did it first, in all fairness, and so like Drake did it second, but Kendrick did it first when he did 616 in LA, right? So that's not a typical title for a Kendrick song. Right. That would be a typical title for Drake's series. Right. And so we want to kind of dig into this piece, dig into this song, and kind of take a look at, just keep in mind, lyrics and how lyrics are painting a picture and what Kendrick is doing or not doing right in painting the picture. I really want to get, this is really our first time together breaking down this song in and of itself. This is just first time listening to rap music, so this is our. I know. All right. So this is gonna be fun. So yeah, you wanna let's jump right into it.
Give me a sec. Let's pull this up.
Let's share it up. Okay, again, this song is called 616 in LA. And now they're kind of out of order. So 616 in LA was essentially Kendrick's second song in the feud. Once the feud was already kind of lathered up. Joshua, I don't know if you're following it. The level of strategic jabs in this. So Joshua, I know that you're kind of following it. So and I'm not talking about the beef in total, because I don't know, it might have been third or fourth in the thing in total. But as far as when the feud was really ongoing, so once the feud was, everybody recognized, hey, we are in a feud. Now, this was Kendrick's essentially second. The first one was Euphoria, and then the second one was 616 in LA. So the intro, we can kind of go into the intro, but this part is just kind of like this, it's really melodic, kind of happening in the background. There's survival. I think somebody lying. I don't see no fire. Bam. Let's get into the verse. Bam. Off-White Sunseeker at the Marina. Do we want to? Let's not say this. I don't know how YouTube is going to.
Keep it relatively clear.
I don't know how YouTube is going to view the explicative. But explicative, a phantom. I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. Okay, go ahead. But yeah, so if we can kind of just go in the first line even. So let's not even go into the second line. The first line, the thing that I notice really immediately is we're immediately given the image, right? We're given this yacht or boat, Off-White Sunseeker at the marina. So that's a boat.
Is Sunseeker a type of boat?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm guessing a Phantom is also a type of boat. In addition to others.
No, a Phantom is a car.
That makes more sense.
So again, one of the Sunseeker is a yacht. So again, this Off-White Sunseeker at the marina, we're given immediately the image. So we're not even, as soon as he jumps in, we're not given, this, I hate this guy, I don't like this. Right. We're given an image, and what are you, as the first, this being the first rap song you've ever kind of seen in your life, Jeff, what are you? What do you get? What do you get from? Let's do the couple. Let's do the first two lines. What are you getting from the first two lines?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, so you got the place. I'd be curious. I'm guessing that when you write it, Cat Buys Marine. But yeah, location. By the water. And then also talking about preferences. Does Drake talk about cars a lot? I know nothing about Drake. I don't know anything about Drake.
This is so fun. yeah. So it's a general status symbol, right?
For
so
sure.
Like in hip hop, like so, sure. Phantom is a. Here's maybe a little bit of context, because in one of the other things about essentially like a rap beef, a lot of rap music in general, but especially a rap beef, a lot of times what they're doing is like they're responding to things that maybe we have to do a little bit of research if we're not completely plugged in order to really kind of get. So the Sunseeker reference might be a little bit.
But the pieces are there.
Like, and that's what's important, right? So like Kendrick is making references, but the pieces are there for you to extrapolate, right? So,
right.
F word, a phantom. I like to buy yachts when I get the fever. So immediate rest. Like you're already in the story, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have to do a whole bunch of backtracking. He's saying, this status symbol at, again, another status symbol. Forget this status symbol. I like to go for larger status symbol when I want to buy something.
But it's all saying you do this, but I do this.
Yeah. Which again, maybe this is a bit of a reach. There was a video, I think it's like an IG live or something like that, of like Cole driving with Drake in a Phantom, right? Sense. And like one of them just bought a Phantom, right? And so they're just driving the Phantom, right? And so I think it's essentially saying, Kendrick is saying like, y'all buy Phantoms, I buy yachts when I get the fever. So, but yeah, I think again, just a really important something that like when you're opening up, especially when you're opening up a verse, he's going directly for a picture that you can immediately see, with your mind's eye as soon as you're like listening to it. Imagine, like, again, there's like this really, like the melody in the background is really beautiful. Like it's really catchy. It's like a car bop. So you're already getting all those tones with the lyrics that you're getting here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good.
No, again, very similar things to talk about with poems. Like the first line, I mean, literally being like stepping onto a boat you've never been on before, right? You're trying to see what it's going to do with you. Can it hold your weight? It's going to sink, and things like that. Very, typical, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're ready to jump into the next line?
I think so.
Do you want to go for it, or do you want me to tackle it?
Wine cooler, spills on my t-shirt, the sightseer, trifecta, money, morals, and culture, that's my leisure. So, the trifecta part, fine, like the sightseer, trifecta. So these are the things that, and especially finishing with that's my leisure. These are the things that are important to me, right? Money, morals, culture.
Right.
The wine cooler spilling on the t-shirt sounds negative, but the rest of the experience seems positive.
Yeah, I think one of the things I kind of struggle with is like, man, like what is the entendre here?
Right.
So like wine cooler spill on my white t-shirt, the sightseer. Like I don't know. Unless
that's like saying, yeah, it's a negative thing, but it's actually a positive thing. Like this is like, it's like a badge of honor in a way. This is part of I'm showing my culture. The fact that I even had wine cooler, but that doesn't really make sense because I feel like wine cooler is usually.
Yeah, I think is like there's probably something higher. There's like a higher level, like what these things are actually meaning that aren't, because it's also like the wine cooler spill on my white t-shirt, the sightseer. I don't know. I kind of struggle with that. Like, I'm sure there's probably some kind of
It has to be referencing
dissection
something.
that's like
It has
there's
to
a
be
reference
referencing
there.
something.
Well, maybe if we find it as we're reading the verse, we'll circle back around to it.
Also, just the idea of, the white T-shirt on.
Yeah.
You have this, you know, nice boat, and you're on it with a white tee.
Oh, yeah.
Like
That's good.
It's, in one sense, it could be ironic, but then in the other sense, there's also just like the cultural element too. So it's like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of interesting little dichotomies there.
yeah, because I think there's a status that's kind of assigned to everything else that he's like, we have a Phantom. We talked about Phantom, the yachts, a specific Sunseeker. So it's like you have, and it's like an off-white Sunseeker. So we're already off-white Sunseeker, wine cooler on a white T-shirt.
Unless this is all referencing back to the culture. So like the Sunseeker, the yacht, the wine points to the money, but then the spilling in the T-shirt could also be referenced to the cultural element. I don't know. Those are just immediate thoughts. So again, it could also be. I think it's really tricky with rap because everything's always referencing something.
I mean, if you're good, like right, so it's
If
like
for sure, you're giving a lot of credit.
I think somebody like Kendrick Lamar is like kind of earned that, right? So it's like I think that when I'm reading lyrics, I'm kind of giving it's almost like the same thing like they talk about like the Cat Williams effect, especially like back in the day, like you have kind of that guttural.
Really quick, give it a sec. I think it's kind of dangerous from an artist perspective too, because you can start to live off of reputation versus what you are actually producing.
I would absolutely agree. Which is just to say, I think that there's like from an artist standpoint, yeah, but like from an audience standpoint, it's like it's safer, or it's safe to say that as opposed to like when I'm reading something, if I'm only getting something surface, like Jay-Z became really really infamous for like the double, triple, quadruple, quintuple entendres, right? Because he would be saying something that means 5 different things, and the older you get, the more events happen in your family, the more then you listen to it again and you're hearing something else. And so, which is just to say that I think that when I see that line, I'm like, I can very clearly see the image, right? So we started this thing out with 3 different images, and we're gonna keep going through images here, right? You know what I mean? Like, so like this is again when we're talking about like the effectiveness of using images, like he's done nothing so far but paint consistent pictures for you to be able to attach to. And like, would you say like there's like some importance in having the audience attach themselves to pictures as opposed to like maybe like if you were to just come in here like I hate Drake?
Yeah, I mean, it allows you, from a reader or listener, to get to do work on your own, and that's going to make it more meaningful for you. Which is kind of tricky with that trifecta line, because in some ways that's probably the most direct kind of telling line that we've had. I'm basically saying, hey, money, morals, and culture, that's my leisure. So it almost, I don't want to say it undermines what happens before it, but it kind of, that's not doing the same amount of work as the previous part, in my opinion.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
But how about, want to keep going?
Yeah. I kind of want to get to look at his darling in Brooklyn. Just book me some pizza. Who could reach us? Only God could teleport this type of freedom. Ooh, so I really like the. So I mean, and this is kind of we'll get to some other kind of like images here, but dwelling in Brooklyn, just book me some pizza. Who could reach us? Only God could teleport this type of freedom. So like we have this like we have like traveling image or traveling like words or the words associated with travel, like visa, passport, and then even just like the three or the two show up, right? So like that's even giving like the like arrival language, right? And then we have dwelling in Brooklyn, so that's like giving more stationary.
Do we know anything about locality?
I meant like the person, but
I wonder destination. That has to be referencing something.
yeah.
Who's the us?
Us, I mean, is who could reach us. A lot of times, like when we're talking about like these things are like they're typically talking about like their teams. Like when it's like us, it's like this my gang, my people, like who we are. And so a lot of times, like the verbiage is not just me, but like you know.
That's this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Part of the reason I ask, yeah, I mean, I assume that, but I just think that's really interesting. The poems are very centered on the I. Like, I do this, I get this, my visa, I show up. Then suddenly, the switch to us, I thought was really interesting.
Oh yeah.
Though even just the line like if it said like who could reach me versus who could reach us, you know, like because like. I mean, he's playing acoustically, right? He's playing with pizza, right? He's trying to get a rhyme. He's trying to do an ia, like pizza, who could reach us, you know, like things like that. So acoustically,
Yeah.
get it.
Like
if
us would be
because if it's reach me, pizza, who could reach me, you lose some of that. But that is, I think that shift is interesting. If it were a poem, I would dive more into that.
But as the first hip hop song that I've ever listened
to. That's the very first, because I have literally never heard a single rap in my entire life.
Okay. Yeah.
What do you make of the only God could teleport?
And so I mean and again, this is kind of like requires some inside baseball. I mean, not even inside baseball. It's just like you have like not necessarily like you have to know these persons, which is also it's like you know I don't think you have to necessarily know it to make that a good line, but you had like Kendrick is a God fearing man and he talks about it a lot. You know what I mean? So I think that he is a like only God could teleport this kind of freedom. So we're like. It's like there's like this freedom that is associated with like the fact that he has like the money, morals, and culture to, I mean, and I would even put like the culture as like maybe the want to be able to travel. You know what I mean? But the money and morals as far as like the ability to be able to travel, because it's like you know not everybody could, even if you had the money to. Like I think about somebody like someone like Michael Jackson, you know, like near the end of his life, like he had the money and culture, but he couldn't travel. Like he could travel anywhere that he wanted, but not with the freedom that he wanted. You know what I mean? And I think that like Muhammad Ali actually said this prior to his passing when I can't remember who he was talking about. You know, I don't know why I said prior to his passing, like he could have said it after his passing. But essentially like, you know, like he could be out and around his people. Like he's this huge iconic figure, but he could be out and around his people. And I think that's something that Kendrick covets, like the ability to, you know, have the kind of life that he does, which is a peaceful life. And he can actually travel and he can be of the people and he can, you know, associate with the people. And so like only God can teleport this kind of freedom, like that freedom being able to have riches, like he's very, very rich, and still be able to have the kind of freedom that he does.
I think I'm drawn to the word teleport. I think a lot of times you see teleport as like an entrant. Like it doesn't usually take an object. Like something teleported somewhere. I wouldn't usually say like I teleported something. You know what I mean? It's like and then the idea of like God
Teleporting as a concept, maybe. Like God.
I think it's because it's not like delivered.
But it's also, I think it's like kind of creating that layer, right? So it's like only God could teleport to, like, it's not just like give me this kind of this freedom. It's like only God could teleport this kind of freedom, because it's like I've used all this visa, passport, like dwelling, like reach even. So it's like, there's all, I think all he's incorporating all of these words that could incite either the concept of travel or the concept of state being stationary, and like the act of freedom being that you could have both. And so adding teleport, I think kind of keeps it in theme, so to speak.
I think it's interesting too. I mean, I think it's such an interesting. One, I think is an unexpected word choice, which isn't a bad thing. Okay. Also, what are the implications of if something is teleporting? If something's teleporting, that means it already exists in one place, and then it moves often a great distance to another place, right? When I think of teleport, those are kind of the assumptions I often have. And it's also the fact that it's instantaneous.
I get that. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
I also think it's interesting too with this specifying like this type of freedom, the implication that there's other types of freedom, right?
Right.
And so, but this is one of those types. I want to catch on to Joshua's comment here. He disses Drake for liking the celebrity of his fame, communicating he's not living real life. And then saying that Drake is lying, as he often does.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Josh, I absolutely agree. I think that there's like an aspect of, and again, I think the lyrics here, they paint a very vivid picture, but they also paint a picture of somebody who is, again, they have, I would say that he has, as far as fame is concerned, a similar status, right? So I think that if I'm thinking about in general rap circles, as far as just the general populace, now as far as like hip hop heads and people that love the culture and things like that, these things may vary, but just in the general status, it's like Drake is famous and Kendrick Lamar is also famous. But I think Kendrick Lamar is famous in the way that he's of the people. So like the things that he's describing are things that make him feel that he is very rich but down to earth. Right? So you have this like, my passport tattoos, I show up in Ibiza, like all these like locations, dwelling in Brooklyn, just book me some people, like who could reach us. So it's like there's this concept of him being well traveled and him, having the money, and even just trickling down, like, I buy a yacht when I get the fever, but it's like he's all these things, but he's still of the people. And like that is a freedom that can only be teleported by God. Like the other thing where you're this like almost conglomerate and you're almost a non-human, and like, if you stepped out of your door, you would be mobbed by thousands upon thousands of people who, might want malicious things for you. It's like, yeah, like that is a different freedom. Which is like not necessarily of, you know what I mean? Like it's not necessarily from God, that freedom.
I think one thing is does Drake rap about religion a lot or not so much?
Not a lot.
Okay.
No.
Because I'm wondering again, not being familiar with Drake's discography.
It's being the first hip hop album.
If this being my very first, because I had never listened to rap before in my entire life, despite growing up in Philadelphia,
you would be shocked.
You would be shocked.
Yeah,
anyways, because I'm wondering if that's also to show a disconnect with Drake, that like only God could teleport this type of freedom versus someone else. Whether thinking they like earned it on their own or something like that. I'm kind of curious about that line.
I would probably say that like it would be closer to the idea of like only God could teleport this kind of freedom in juxtaposition with if you listen to like the other songs in this beat surrounding this, it's like what else could be giving Drake that kind, like the kind of freedom that Drake enjoys, right? So it's
So there
like
are
they're
other types of
juxtaposing
freedoms,
God
but
and
they're not God given.
right, right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too, just kind of seeing the signaling of identity going on. There is this desire. Let's treat the eye as a speaker for a moment.
Okay.
There is this desire from this eye to have two things that are somewhat at odds with each other, right? I buy the yachts, I have the wine cooler, but I don't want to distance myself from people that don't have those things. My audience, maybe my audience, majority of people listening to me don't have yachts and things like that. So what do? I spill wine on my t-shirt because I wear a t-shirt on my yacht. I have money, but I also have morals and culture. Like it seems like there's like a lot of signaling to multiple groups kind of going on. I don't know if you see that too. Sorry.
I kind of see. I mean, I think I see what you're saying. I think that there's like there is a.
I know it happens in rap all the time. Like I know,
right?
like everyone's always flashing off their stuff. But
Right.
Then
Well, you're
trying to show your.
Well, I would say that like Kendrick is like maybe a specific artist because he's not doing that. He makes it clear that he is rich, right? So he's like, but he's also making clear like the struggles that he has. I actually think one of the like a really good example of like a connective or a connection that you might be more familiar with. I think it's like Dave Chappelle. Like Dave Chappelle is somebody who you've heard of Dave Chappelle, correct? Okay. Dave Chappelle is a comedian who I think that's like he's very rich and he talks about being rich. He doesn't try to pretend that. I think a lot of comedians when they get really rich, but in order to try to stay connected, they'll try to like pretend like that's not the case. But I think that like for a lot of it, like Kendrick is wearing a lot of things on his sleeve, but he's also very clearly communicating like a very popular Biggie he's still dealing with a lot of that's not the only thing that he talks about, or that's not the only thing on his radar, but it is something that he is communicating. So I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily something he's like trying to signal in this case that being like negative, but as far as like him just being genuinely who he is, even with the money, right? So he's like, I was always this person. Now I'm this person with money.
Or I want you to perceive that, anyways.
Or maybe
not it. I mean, it's hard with speakers, right. We get one person's perspective. So, I mean, it's like it gets back to that question of like, how much do you trust your narrator? You know what I mean?
I respect that. Yeah.
I'm gonna move down.
Cool.
I'll maybe go down to this guy because this all kind of seems connected.
Okay. All right, so I really like this part of the song because he kind of goes from.
I'm not no.
Oh,
so here's the thing. So
all right, Kendrick. Hey, listen, Kendrick. If you're watching this, I thought you knew this guy. If you make another track,
I'm not saying Kendrick is being fake. I'm saying that we're getting one perspective.
Again, Kendrick, I'm a fan. So don't
I'm
make
not saying
whatever song you have to make. It's not about me, okay? I promise. But no. But I actually agree. So
I think you have to be anytime.
I think you have to. I think one of the things, especially in like a dissection, right? So like and I the thing is, the thing I like about this being your very first hip hop song ever is that, but I also like that you're coming into it fresh because it's like I think the perspective that you have is like, okay, you have to assume that whatever narrative I'm getting, I'm just getting your side. I'm just getting what you're saying.
I can't. There's no narrator or speaker that I trust. That doesn't mean that like I don't.
Me. What did I say?
Including like and that's something when I'm writing my own poems, it's also like that speaker. Like what is that speaker in my poem hiding? What is their motivation in writing this and in portraying this and giving this? Because everything, it's always a choice. You didn't have to write any of these words, so you wrote this words with a lot of intentionality. Cool, but there's the other side of that. There's also kind of like the shadow side of it. It's like what I wrote this to make sure that you perceive me, or I perceive myself, or whatever it is, a certain way, right?
I agree.
And so that's kind of in the back of my mind as I'm reading through this, what do I know about the speaker and what do I not know about the speaker, and what is the motivation behind the phrasing that they're using? You know what I mean?
No, yeah.
But going back to this,
So yeah, I really like the kind of the transition. It goes from like essentially rapping to like more like a melodic, like more melodic like through this part.
mm-hmm.
So God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war?
So confession of what?
I think
what have we confessed?
So I don't even know. I think that like my confession is yours is I think it's interesting because it's like I think it's the concept of the person or the personage that you're confessing to being who you're also like in a divine obligation to, because that's who you're confessing to. So like I'm confessing to the Lord because my sins ultimately are against
So
God.
This kind of reminds me, these two, God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war? This kind of reminds me of a little bit like Shakespeare in that. Sometimes what you see with like Shakespeare is there's a reversal. It's almost like Yoda speak. Like your second line in some ways actually precedes your first line. It's like the confession seems to be more in relation to the warring. I apologize that I have to do this thing. I apologize I have to commit this act of violence. I apologize for this war, and things like that. You know what I mean?
I agree.
That's kind of how I interpret that.
I think that it's like I think you're right, and I think that Kendrick is like in a lot of facets. And if you go through his discography, he is kind of like almost like a tortured warrior almost, you know what I mean, like that. And like it's also like somebody who's like it's harder for him to have the luxuries that he has accumulated because of his talent, because he's like it's like what is it? It's easier to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. And he's like because of his talent and what he's done through his career, he's like pushed himself into like a garden, but he's also like he's a warrior, and he's not used to the softness of the life that he could have, right? Or there's like traumas and things like that are informing like some of the things that he's going through,
which really speaks to a lot of there's a lot of I don't say like a lot like discomfort, maybe that's not the right word, but there's a lot of I want to be true to one thing while also being true to another thing.
Yeah, that's possible. But I also which is the reason why I just think that like when he's like, I think, and again, audibly, if I think when you hear it, he's doing something with not just rapping this part. Where he's like, God, my confession, like it's like there's a difference. So like, like as far as like it being like him rapping and then him kind of cutting that, and then now he's like, this is a little bit more melodic because he's like calling out. He's like, God, my confession is yours, but who am I if I don't go to war? Like which is like again, he's talking about engaging in this hip hop battle, right? Yeah. He's like, who would I be if I don't engage with this? Who would I be if I don't, go to this fight? Which is also, I think, is like an interesting, like, kind of a inspection of identity, like, especially like anybody as an artist, but, he's talking about himself as an artist and a man, right? He's like, who would I be? Like, I don't know who I am if I'm not the person that goes to war here.
Right. Yeah. Which is also interesting too, because through the confession, there's also this acceptance of reality that what he wants to do may be against what God wants.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there wouldn't be a need for a confession.
I think it's like, not only is there not a need for a confession, but I think that there is a higher morality of, and I think there's like the difference between what we know that, is like the higher morality. So it's like, man, if, let's say, like, the highest morality might be turn the other cheek, right? So maybe we're like, that's the highest morality. We need to focus on turn the other cheek. But we can focus on like the lesser maybe morality, but we still might regard as a higher morality, which is like the holy warrior. So it's like, I might not turn the other cheek, but I am, when I shed blood, it's for a divine reason, right? And so like we convince ourselves into being like the holy warrior almost, or just a warrior in general, because it's better than being maybe weak. And we might appeal to what we still view as like the like morality. So he's like, he's a warrior. He doesn't know what he would be or who he would be if he's not a warrior.
But he does know that would take him away from God. Because otherwise he wouldn't say, God, my confession is yours.
But who am I?
It's basically saying, I'm doing this thing because of how I view myself. It's basically putting higher my personal view of myself than God's view of me.
I don't know, because I think that there's also like a not knowing, right? So it's like I don't even know what I would be if I don't do this. So I don't know how to not do this.
But that sounds to me like a justification for, that it's something that God probably doesn't want, but you're going to do it anyway. And this is just a justification for it. That's how I interpret that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hear you. I don't think I necessarily wholly disagree. I think that the way that I read it is there is a war that he's like, I can make this thing sanctified because of like, it's who I am. Like, I don't know how to, like, I have to, because the only way that I can muddle through this is like through life is that I have to be this person that goes to war.
I mean, it makes him very human, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
gonna keep going.
Dude, I don't know how far you want to go down for this time.
This is probably a good spot to go.
That's good. All right. So
what's the loss?
Well, so there's opportunity when living with loss. I discover myself when I fall short. Raise my hands to a fallen sky. So, okay.
Just want to say Joshua gets it.
Go
you get it, Joshua. You get it.
Kendrick doesn't know he would be internal war. I know I shouldn't do this, God, but I can't help my flesh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm with it. So I think this part I really enjoy. Again, we're dealing with some pictures here again too. I discover myself when I fall short. Raise my hands to a fallen sky. So like we still get an image here, but also like I think we get an image, but we get like a very interesting kind of lesson that he's internalizing. So he's not saying, people discover themselves when they fall short. He's saying that I discover myself when I fall short. So he's not making it a general lesson. He's making it maybe a specific observation.
All this kind of points back to the us of earlier.
Okay, how so?
Where did we go? Where's my people? Like, I don't... This, I know I mentioned earlier that I think it's all about... I think the rhyme...
I think it's the rhyme scheme. I think it's like he's speaking in like the us as a team. Like,
I know that, but this is not. But they got this is a very individual experience. I think the us is really undermining. I think if this were a poem, I would make the argument that us really should be me. in my opinion.
Yeah, but again, and I think in hip hop or in rap,
I get it. I know.
Yeah, so just in rap because you're leaning more on the rhyme scheme and like kind of and breaking down a rhyme scheme. And the thing is, which is interesting, is that like you could probably still have the rhyme scheme somewhat present without the us. It would just be less of the rhyme scheme, which I think would dilute it. For like, it's more potent the way it is now. I don't necessarily disagree. But I do think as far as like it being a lyric and what it is, I would place it there. If I'm like writing this down and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm rapping this and this is like on a beat, like, okay, I probably would prioritize like the us here as opposed to the then we is me take.
I mean, yeah, I would go singular. Singular. But I moving on.
Jeff says he wants to battle you next, Kendrick. He says, if you don't, Drake, see me. I have some suggestions.
But okay, there's opportunity living with. What is the loss?
There's opportunity when living with loss. So,
what's lost? What have we lost?
And I think this might be again some inside baseball, like and I'm saying inside baseball with regards to, I think understanding Kendrick's greater catalog, not even necessarily greater catalog. This is kind of coming on the ends of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and if you hear that album, because again, and one of the things that's important is that like if you are really engaged with this battle, then you've probably heard Kendrick's last album, because in the same way that you probably heard Drake's last album, you probably at least do one listen through for everything, right? And Kendrick is probably relying on like these are so essentially like I would say,
is he
if Sonic were to in movie number 5 say I'm about to run to China in 10 seconds, then you would be like, I know Sonic's built himself as a character over 5 different movies. Mm-hmm. So by this movie, I should get the gist that he doesn't have to explain that he's going to do that. I know that he can do that. And so I think that there's maybe something kind of happening with that where he's like, there's opportunity when living with loss. So it's like, I don't think that I don't even necessarily think he has to explain that part, because he's saying, there's opportunity when living with loss. Like that's not necessarily saying himself. He's saying like that's a common lesson. Like there's opportunity when living with loss.
Or do you think he's kind of, is it aimed specifically at Drake, saying Drake lost, and he's saying, hey Drake, when you lose, there's opportunities. I discover myself when I fall short. Is there a chance that could be a jab at Drake, telling him that he lost? And like take that learn from it. But
responding track that we're going to examine, this track happened before. This track I think was released in order to go out Drake to bring out the big guns.
Okay.
So, which is to say, like, I don't think like the killing blows really happened yet here.
But fine, noted. But by making this statement, and we're if you're doing these sort of like diss tracks and things like that, there's winners and losers. Like I think, even if it's not necessarily the primary intention, I still don't think. It's not like there's opportunity when living with loss, except in your case. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, but I don't, which is to say that I don't think it's a crazy leap to go that direction, but I think that the intention here is like, I think Kendrick is dealing with loss, and he's like understanding that, like, I think he's understanding a greater lesson, which is also something that's interesting, because I think he's understanding a greater lesson than what he is. Then like it's also, I think it's like the war, essentially the warrior that loses everything and he becomes like through his training arc. So he's like, okay, yeah, like I've lost so much, but in losing so much, like there's also opportunities. Because again, the next line, I discover myself when I fall short. Like he's like, I'm I've like I'm able to in my seclusion when I fail, that's when I really get to
I don't
increase intimacy with
right,
myself.
but I mean, I think Joshua gets it.
What does Joshua say?
Joshua
I can
says-
see that because in one diss, Kendrick does tell Drake to essentially grow up, be a man, look inward.
So it's like again, it's like
That's
to me.
not,
This I mean,
come on, Josh.
to me, it's, no, it's
Joshua,
like a Tim Duncan kind of insult. Like, oh, nice try, better luck next time. So close, you know. Like
I think it's deeper than
it's
that.
almost. It can be very condescending in a way.
But that's what I'm saying. But I don't. He's talking about himself. I think like I think so far in this he's been referring and
I don't
turning
disagree,
it inward. I'm not saying that you can't be like, oh, what he's really saying is that. But I just don't think I don't think there's any other.
Okay.
I don't think there's signalers to show that being his intention.
Okay.
But I think that like if you put this in the middle of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, like I would be like, oh, like I know what he's talking about. And he's talking about himself going through this journey, like life's journey. I could be wrong, but
all Joshua says is Joshua says he literally said it. Joshua knows
I'm not. Wait, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Joshua.
You can debate Joshua.
That's what I'm saying, Joshua. He said. What I'm saying is that those two things are not connected in this case, in my belief, right? I like even like Drake might have said something, but in this where he's saying like if you take that snippet out and you put in the Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, I would not assume that in in the context of that album, he's talking about Drake. I think he's talking about himself. He's talking about I discover myself when I fall short. Like he's like he's again, Mr. Morale and Big Steppers is a lot of ways him going through life's journey, him making mistakes, him doing like things that like because of fame, because of whatever the situations are, because of the money, you know, whatever it is. And through those mistakes, he's like, you know, making this art that he's communicating and he's like helping heal and talking about his childhood and peeling the layers back and things like that, which is just to say that like, I do think, oh yes, I agree there. He's talking about himself and that like, well, yeah, right. But that's what I'm saying. In these lines so far, I don't think that he has started to say, oh, let me little bro Drake in this regard. I think what he's doing is he's being introspective of himself. Again, I also think because of the fact that this song as a tool to me was like, I need to just pull Drake out. I want Drake to be on my time and not his time, which is I also think is an interesting kind of aspect of this rap beef. Like timing. We can maybe talk about that later, but it's just to say that in this specific run of lines, I don't think that he has addressed like or wanted to come up or little bro Drake any regard. There'll be some of that later, but I think he's just used some really beautiful language to convey maybe his personal journey or some aspects of his personal journey leading up to this war.
I guess I don't entirely see how we got from this point to this point. The pivot seems a little hard. Did you say he lost the war? Or he's assuming he's going to lose the war?
No, wait. What do you mean?
I'm just trying to I'm curious about the transition going from here.
I think when it says there's opportunity when living with loss, I think he's living with loss, and he's like, I think this is kind of a depiction of his concept. You know what I imagine this kind of the first part as? It's like the hero that has fought his battle and can just go. Okay, and we'll get to it in kind of I think the next about 5 or 6 lines, but I imagine this like if I were to like kind of try to put this in like in a cinema kind of context, like the hero that fought his big journey, has fought his big fight, he fought the enemy, slayed the dragon and then lives on an island somewhere with his family, and then he's like, is doing whatever, and he's like almost spoiled in a way, right? Because he was a warrior at first, and now he's this peaceful person that has this peaceful life, secluded life. He's not trying to get the fame. He's not trying to be a king. He's just trying to be, kind of secluded and like kind of live this life. And he's contemplating this idea of going to war. He's contemplating this idea of like going to war, and if he needs the war himself. Because I think it's kind of like this, like he's almost like spoiled in a way. Like he's like talking about these like status symbols that he has, and like, I buy yachts when I get the fever. He's like, man, like I have so much at my fingertips, and he says like I'm almost spoiled to an extent, and I discover myself when I fall short. So it's like I think it's like also this like he thinks about like the fact that he like maybe falls short of his morals and or whatever the situation is, but and again we'll get to it in the next few lines.
All right, yeah, let's go.
But yeah,
raise my hands to the fallen sky. In the Bible, is there any scene with a falling sky?
I mean, there's like not a scene with the falling sky as much as images of like prophecy where like the sky's falling or like comets like coming from heavens or meteors coming from heaven, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Associated with the end of the world.
With the end of like a version of the world, I would suppose. Maybe not like you know what I mean. Like it's not like not like the world being destroyed, not the planet being destroyed. I guess.
Yeah. Raise my hands to the fallen sky. Is that I take that almost as like a like defense, like protection kind of thing, or do you see it more as a praise kind of thing?
Raise my hands to the fall. Jump and play. You know what I think? I think it's interesting. I think that he's using fallen sky to embody maybe him soaring through the sky. So it's like, and like that image of a falling sky, the sky coming towards
the
him.
fallen sky in the sense that he's moved above it.
He's because the next line we kind of get that.
But it's also interesting with falling versus falling. So it's already happened. It's done. Versus falling, it would be in progress.
I wonder if like, cause like in the, I raise my hand to because I wonder if like in the
transcript, you wonder if it's like
I wonder if that's what he wrote, because I don't think there's like a transcript that he participated in specifically.
So like, Kendrick, if you're listening, did you say falling or fallen?
If you could just let us know, man, that would be cool.
So these mean very different things. It changes things. Let us know what you guys think. Do you think it's fallen or falling? To me, falling would make more sense to capture the action in progress, but maybe it already happened. Anyways, also, I mean, those interpretations are very different. Like if it's raising them up to like protection, like this guy's falling, help me, versus like look at me, I'm up in the air and this guy's below me. Like these are very different vibes. But I guess the next one, I fantasize me jumping planets. This kind of speaks back to the teleportation that kind of happened earlier.
Yeah.
Like dramatic movement.
Analyze me jumping planets, immortalized. I correspond. 3 angels watching me all the time.
What do we make of 3 angels?
I mean, this 3 is a really consistent, like 3, 7, and 11, like just divine kind of numbers, and so I think it's falling. He trying to.
He thinks it's falling.
Come on, Joshua.
That's not impressed.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of symbolism with 3, obviously.
I think there's a lot of symbolism with it. I think there's also like I think with respect to, I think the archetypes that we're dealing with, because I think that also the thing that that Kendrick is trying to really make clear is that like, I think one of the things is that Kendrick's an incredible writer, right? I think he's trying to like make it clear like my writing Like, look how dense this writing is. Even like it's spoken, like how dense the writing is, and especially in comparison to Drake, and we can examine that later. But like in comparison to the two, so it's like what I'm doing here is just much better writing. But it's also, I think that's like kind of the morals that are surviving within the text here, and like who he is within the text, and who his character archetype is within the text is, I think, just different than what Drake is. As far as like, even just in reference to like referencing God, referencing angels, and even reference like God, my confession is yours, but who? So even his like, even him contemplating and speaking with God in this way. So it's kind of making that like the difference clear. Again, also keep in mind that this track is titled 616 in LA, which is a title format that Drake uses. Right. So
is it 6:16 a.m. or p.m.? Does it say?
I don't think it says.
Doesn't say. I'm still curious about the three angels. I mean, yes, it's a very religious number and things like that. Are there references to a moment where there's three angels specifically?
I mean, there's a lot.
With like three angels appearing at once?
Yeah.
Like where it specifically says three angels?
I mean, there's like, yeah, there's...
I'd be curious to kind of look at those scenes. Anyways.
Jeff has also never seen a Bible before, so
I have seen a Bible.
He's never seen a Bible
section,
and he's never listened to hip hop.
All right, if you know a specific story where like specifically three angels appear, I wonder if it. Anyways, so three angels watching me all the time, so almost kind of has like a guardian angel kind of sense too,
right?
Which is interesting, parallel to earlier too with the. I don't want to say conflict with God, but there's some kind of tension there. But God's still hanging with him.
Because I think about this archetype, and I think about like every, three angels. I think about the God, my confession is yours. Who am I if I don't go to war? Okay, so like maybe this is like a bit of a reach, but we can kind of go through it. David. Like the archetype of David was a shepherd, right? And as a shepherd, he didn't really fight people or anything like that, but he did fight like animals and stuff like that. And he killed a bear or a lion or something like that. A lion,
beast,
or whatever, some kind of beast, right? And so, so David was physical and he was formidable, but he wasn't a murderer. Like he didn't kill people, right? Until Goliath, right? And then after that, he was a warrior, and David killed tens of thousands, right? Like what were like Saul? Like the people would say, like the reason why Saul was jealous because like Saul has his thousands, David has his tens of thousands, right? So it was like David had a lot of blood on his hands, and I think that it's like David had a lot of blood on his hands, but most of the blood that David had on his hands was like. It's like righteous, right? Because it was like this is God's anointed king warrior. And I think that like I think that it's like maybe this toiling with this thing, like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like I don't know if I'm supposed to be peaceful or if like I'm supposed to be in this space as peace, but I'm like I have to, like there is a war to be fought and I have to fight a war. And so like we're getting these images of his life kind of in servitude of God, like, you got the three angels putting your children to sleep. So it's like there's this very kind of almost like devout lifestyle that he's portraying, but he's like, there's a war on the forefront. There's like makes sense.
Yeah, a little bit of respect. What do you make of the I correspond?
Each of our planets I correspond. 3. I correspond. 3 angels watching me all the time.
I see correspond as like, I think like letters or like sending like messages. But it can also be like connections or associations. Because I easily could have gone like me jumping to planets immortalized, 3 angels watching me all the time. The I correspond is throwing me off.
I don't know. I see it as kind of like maybe like an internal, consistent communication between him and the divine. So it's like me jumping planets immortalized. So like now he's larger than, like he's has this like imagination, or the things that he's seeing is like, because he fantasizes, right? I fantasize me jumping planets and immortalized. I corresponding. So maybe he's extending that fantasizing to when he's corresponding with these 3 angels that are watching him all the time. And then, the next line being, put my children to sleep with a prayer. So it's like he has this like fantasy of this like, kind of like almost mystic, larger than life viewscape of this concept. And then the grounded viewscape of the concept is putting his children to sleep with a prayer, then close my eyes, definition of peace. So it's like he's like this peaceful life that he has, that it's like it's grandiose in this fantasy that he's like in his head, that he's painting this picture, again painting another picture of, but it's like its grounded version is that next line.
Mm-hmm. Definition of peace, that being putting my children to sleep with a prayer and then closing my own eyes. That's how I take that. Who does the opening? So tell me who's gonna stop me. I come from love and still cover my heart. I guess I still cover my heart. Then open me up. Not I open myself up. We're talking to the listener.
Open my heart. Open me up. Remember when?
From love. I don't know who we're addressing.
Yeah, because I almost want, even after like the kind of melodic refrain, like we're like, God, my confession is yours, but whoever I win the war. I wonder if we're still doing that, just like, because it's often often I know this type of power gonna cost me, so it's like, yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, and like often in rap, you're kind of going in between, where these references are. So it's like, I could be talking to one person, now I'm talking to this other person, and we're kind of going back and forth.
The transitions are a lot, I don't want to say jumpier, but they can happen very quickly. Here we go with the 3 angels. Joshua coming through. Revelation is a mention of 3 angels specifically. I mentioned it's dependent on translation, but there are a few others. I'm guessing also at the Nativity there was one. I'm guessing there were 3 there. If I had to make a guess.
Those were the wise men.
Yes, there were the 3, but I'm wondering if they saw 3 angels. Joshua pointing out the chapters too. Thank you, Josh, for putting in the work.
Joshua. Shout out to Josh.
Remember when picked up a pen, lyrics I could trust. Am I wrong to take it as... It's interesting because earlier today, Matthias and I were looking at a poem about nostalgia. This feels nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
As if this is no longer happening. That's why I take that.
I would agree, because I also think that like when I think about like the Heart series, like this feels in the mode in Mentality of the Heart series. You know what I mean? Where he's like, sometimes he's like reflecting, sometimes he's building. He's building up to something. You know what I mean? And so I think that, again, if we're bringing it back to the motif of, I think, the warrior that is apprehensive about leaving his peaceful life to go back to war. You know what I mean? But he's like, maybe like the peaceful life that he has is like the thing that might be torturing him to it in a way. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, he understands the peaceful life, and there's aspects of it that he does really well, that he's like, he's blessed with, but he's like, I want to destroy things that are unholy, and I have to be the person that does it. I have to like destroy.
Yeah.
Like, he's like a holy or a divine destroyer, right? And so this tell me who gonna stop me, I come from love. It's like I'm unstoppable, but the motivation and where it's coming from is not this, like, it's not a destructive mentality. It's a I'm coming from the divine. Like, even you have like what 1 John 4, like, God is love. And so you have this, like, you know, who's going to stop me? I come from love, in conjunction with like the fact that he's in connection with the divine, and he's like in cooperation with the divine. What, he's putting his children to sleep, praying over them, going to bed. Like, so he has all of these, I guess, like rhythms, and like his lifestyle is like in connection with and in rhythm with the divine. And so he's like, who's going to stop me, because I'm doing everything in accordance with the Lord, or with God. Tell me who going to stop me, I come from love, and still cover my heart, that open me up. Remember when picked up the pen, lyrics I can trust. Now I could say, so I would say in that, it's like, I would not like shirk out the thought that he's also like, remember when picked up the pen, lyrics I could trust. It's like, also it's I think it's 99% pointing to his own personal journey, right? But there might be 1% showcasing like, I picked up the pen, lyrics I could trust. Like, these are my lyrics. These are what I am.
Right.
I am the scribe on this journey. I'm not the mouthpiece. Like, so like in a lot of ways, like Aaron, in a lot of ways, was like a mouthpiece for Moses, because like Moses wasn't always the one speaking, but Moses was speaking through Aaron in a lot of cases. And so it's like he's kind of bringing attention to the fact that it's like, you know, like he's remembering again. It's like, man, like, you know, you see like a lot of times you see like the third act or the third movie of a series, when the warrior that the protagonist that you've been following this entire time, maybe he seemingly retired and he's kind of went off somewhere, and then he's like, he realizes he has to kind of go back to war, and he picks up his sword again, and he's like, he's kind of reminiscing. Remember when I picked up the pen, lyrics I could trust. He's kind of reminiscing about this, like, this time when he was this great strong warrior, and when he first started, and he's remembering like that era.
Raphael's the name of one of the archangels, isn't it?
Yes.
What do we know about Raphael? Is this Russia mentions Angel of War? Is Raphael an Angel of War?
He is. I mean,
is he the one? I know that
Raphael is like,
in
because
Paradise
he is
Lost. Is he the one that cast down Lucifer?
Michael is the one who cast down Lucifer.
Okay. If anyone knows anything about Raphael, feel free. Just curious. I mean, besides, so I'm guessing
he's a messenger.
So it's like, I can heal and give you art. I'm guessing almost sounds like a. Thank you to Joshua. Yeah. I'm guessing Raphael also has healing and almost kind of like muse qualities, like heal and give you art. Is Raphael associated with art?
I'd have to like.
Yeah, we got it. Anyways, just kind of curious. Anytime there's like a name reference, always curious. Because out of all the angels, you know, you could have done Gabriel or anyone.
Okay, and then give you art.
I know his power going cost by living in circadian rhythms of a shooting star. Gabriel is the messenger.
Yeah.
Interesting. You know, something
But
that I
I'm
think can
sorry, go
speak just to our own poems and things like that. You know, every time you mention something, we talk about layers and adding complexity. You know, don't just like mention a tree, mentioning a specific tree, but what's the symbolism behind the tree? You know, same thing here. It's like out of all each angel has its own purpose, right? So like, what's the purpose of the if you're naming angels? What's the purpose of the angel you're
Yeah.
picking? You know what I mean?
But also, I almost wonder because he's saying Raphael, like Raphael was a Renaissance artist as
Right, but
well.
also was an artist too. So it's like,
So
but then the healing part is the thing that kind of threw me. It made me think more angel, and also kind of just the all the other religious things going on, and also the connection with like the shooting star and stuff like that. It feels more celestial than just Raphael the artist, but it could be the artist.
it does. It does.
Let's maybe do a couple more lines then,
Okay.
because
It's a lot.
It's-
It's dense. That's what I like about it. But it is dense.
other things that you want to point out in this part.
Are you trying to go lower? Or, oh.
Oh, just in this section here. Anything else that you wanted to highlight?
Nothing more about that part in specific, I guess.
Is it Ak or AK?
Ak is so that's like that's a pop culture reference. He's like a streamer who's like he's a streamer who's a very big Drake fan, and so like essentially he's somebody who he's somebody who like whenever like during the course of this time he's been like reporting on it, and he's like a big Drake fan, so he's been like, oh, Drake killed him, like who's top five are you smoking, like Drake is the guy, Drake is the guy. So it's like essentially like he's essentially saying like these people are paid, these people are like they're cracking right now. It's like yeah, but the industry's cooked as I pick the carrots. But yeah, somebody's lying. I can see the vibes on Act. Even he looking compromised. Let's peel the layers back. So like. Yeah. So like just this idea that like academics is trying to a lot of times he's like trying to report that Drake has this really big almost nuclear option when it comes to like rap. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, like he has something back here that if he does it, it's gonna destroy everybody.
Okay.
But then it's like, does he? Do you really, or are you like just saying that so you can,
Right. And that ties in again. He looking compromised. Peel layers back. You reward points for beating your chest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go on.
No. So I think one of the things that's like about especially this verse is that the top half is really really dense, and like it's really appreciated, right? So he's like, it's really really dense writing, and it's really kind of circling around this. What I would say is like his an introspection. Again, it's this warrior trying to decide or talk, not even necessarily trying to decide, because I think it's a warrior who's already made the decision, right? So and it's really, I think, again, when we're talking about painting a picture, we're talking about like, he's giving you this vivid image of this life that he lives, the luxury that he has. I think like the people that he has around him, the servitude and service to God that he views himself as and in on a typical daily basis. And then also this struggle with like, and also this thought that like the way he views himself is like, he's like in such this like almost celestial heavenly place. He's like, he has like a peaceful life that he loves and it's great. And he's like, but I must go to war. Like I have a peaceful life, but I must go to war. Which I think like even like the narrative balance of that is really beautiful, because it's like, he didn't have to like take you through a whole film of like, look at who I am now, look at what I am now, look at all this, but then like before I start going to war, which is again, there's like a fairly definitive line where that happens, right? Because it's like the mannerisms of Raphael I can heal and give you art, but the industry's cooked as I pick the carcass apart. And then immediately afterward, that's where he started going into more industry language and like around this war.
It's interesting contrasting I can heal, but I pick the carcass. I think that contrast is also
because I can heal and give you art, but the industry's cooked.
So it's already too late.
Yeah, I mean, when you ask God for direction, but you already know which way you're going. Yeah.
That resonates with what we mentioned earlier.
I also like just the idea that there's a lot of people that because it could easily also be inferred like the direction the thing that we hear from God is not really from God, but it's like what we're telling ourselves.
Right.
But we're making this assumption that it's like this, it's a divine message. And there's on a grander note, it's like when people go to like, oh, I got this word for you or something like that. Like a lot of times it's like these people are not, they're telling you what's on their heart, but they're like, it's from a divine place. Right. So you have to listen to it. And so I think it's similar in this regard where he's like, he understands, maybe the peace that he has and things like that. And I don't think he's sacrificing that. I think that the character that he's building up for himself is like not a person who would sacrifice those things in an effort to go to war. But he's saying that like he has to get his hands dirty. Like these things are still going to be safe and these things are still going to be okay. But he's also like, and maybe the way he's justifying it is like, he has to go to war because if he doesn't go to war, then like other things are going to perish. So, and it's up to us maybe to decide whether or not that's true, whether or not it's like he has to.
Yeah, it goes back to how much, again, to a degree, how much you trust the speaker. Things, All right, I might pause this here if that's okay.
That's cool.
All right, guys, if you have other thoughts on things that we covered or didn't get to cover for this specific song, be sure to let us know. We'll be back in the future taking a look at a Drake. I don't know. Did you have a specific one that you want to look at?
No, we gotta do the corresponding the Heart Part 6, which I think we can talk about it later, but yeah, the Heart Part 6 is the corresponding because like the Heart series is Kendrick's series, and so Drake added an installment to the Heart series, which I don't like, but
we'll take a look at it.
Kendrick did it first, so in all fairness. But yeah.
We'll try to approach it objectively.
We'll try to. I'm sorry, I don't have a dog in this fight. And so that'll be the second hip hop song Jeff has ever listened to. So because that's the second one, he's going to be really objective.
I've never heard of rap. Is that what it's called? Rap.
Yep. Rap.
WRA.
Pronounce the P.
Once more, guys. My name is Jeff.
My name is Beth. Oh wait, we have things coming up.
We do have things coming. In fact, this is a very busy week. Actually, I think. Hang on. Bear with us a moment. I made a schedule.
I wonder if the first person to say that there was actually like a bear in their midst. Like, oh, there's a bear with us. Bear, keep bearing with us. Oh, nice.
Okay.
I feel nice about that. That's a great segue.
Matthias, Joshua wants you to leave your bias. Check it at the door.
Check it out the door. I'll do that. Man. Next week when we examine the Drake, I'm gonna come into it as a non-Drake hater, as a Drake enthusiast.
All right. So if you're in Columbus, in the Columbus area, we have a couple things happening. Well, firstly, tomorrow, Wednesday, we have Lo-Fi Poet. So it's going to be 8:30 to 9 p.m. So we write 3 poems, listen to lo-fi beats. I'm making a couple more tracks. When I say I'm making them, AI is making them. I had to do the right prompt, but just being honest. Then on Thursday, you get a free author photo with us that is in person. And also, if you want to record a poem, we can do that for you too.
Yeah, are we doing the thing this Thursday?
I mentioned it. I haven't had a chance to make the event page, so turnout's probably going to be horrible because I have not had a chance to promote it. But we do that every Thursday, in case you're interested. Friday, we have our poetry open mic. That man over there in that corner is Matthias, yelling at a stage light. Yeah, that's going to be at 7 p.m. for the doors and then 7:30 for the show.
Yeah.
Then on Saturday, we have our morning mic. So it's our first morning poetry open mic. It's an experiment we're doing with Third Cafe. So get some coffee and head on over to us. And then on Sunday, for Mother's Day, take your mom and do some poet networking.
Come on now.
That's the mother's
Bring
gift.
your mother.
Give your mom a friend who's a poet.
That's not you, because you're not a great kid. Let her meet somebody else's.
There's better poets. By better in terms of
Way better.
Like just nicer to know. So that's going to be at 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Streetlight Guild with some free food.
Delicious.
So all that's happening. If you have questions about any of those things, you can reach out and let us know. Is that everything?
I think that's everything.
Okay.
Cool. It feels like everything.
All right. It's a busy week, guys. Lots of things happening if you're in the Columbus area. If you're not in Columbus, you should come down. We're doing stuff all the time.
Be a Columbi.
Yeah. Is that what we decided on?
That's where we're at with that.
All right. Cool. You guys have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. We will see you next time on The Versus Live. You guys take care.